Welcome to another episode of Soap Thing Thoughts. Joining me today is Shannon of Shannon Soaps. Welcome to the Soap Thing Project.
Hi, Ben. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on. I know you're busy. Shannon's been busy. She's juggling a house full of kids and a husband and a shaving soap business. She has been all over the place. So we do appreciate her taking time out of her day to come on the show. So let's get started with the logical question. How did we get here? My question is, why shaving soap? What gave you the idea to do shaving soap?
We started with bars a long time ago, and then Brian, it was Brian's idea, not mine. He started getting into wet shaving because of his face. He has really thick beard hair, so he had been using electrics for a while, and that wasn't doing it. And he was tired of spending lots of money on cartridges. And so then he went down the wet shaving rabbit hole. And he's like, hey, you can make soap, so can't you make shaving soap? So he sent me down that path. And it took a few years to get a formula that I really liked, that I thought would work for most people. So
Right.
it took about 3 years from the time we started making soap till the time I built a shaving formula that I really liked.
Right. You're a chemist by trade, aren't you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I
So
focused
so
on the like biochem part. So if I didn't go the path that I ended up going, my original plan was a PhD in biochemistry.
right. So soap making kind of
Kind of.
comes natural to you, mixing all that different stuff together and figuring out a good formula, basically.
I like to play with chemicals. Yeah.
So when you created your first shaving soap base, what were your priorities? Like you were sitting there going, okay, we have to nail at least this, and this. What is that?
It needed to be slick. It needed a nice stable lather. Not like I didn't want a bubbly lather. I wanted a stable, um, small, teeny tiny, maybe bubble lather. And I wanted the razor to be able to glide. So that sort of slickness and that not quite sliminess. Like I didn't want it slimy. So
Right.
sort of balancing those two things. I knew I didn't want a foamy lather like you'd get out of a can because that wasn't slick enough. So I wanted like a thicker lather.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. One of the things that I like about particularly your budget base, your cheaper stuff, is that I have particularly oily skin, and I've
Yeah.
noticed that a lot of other brands who really load their soap down with all these ingredients, it shakes out to be more skin food than I
Oh
really
yeah.
need. Whereas yours
Yeah.
has a really good balance to it. Like here's one
Yeah.
I got right here. This is Black Magic,
Oh yeah.
and this one's all black pepper, labdanum, mint, things like that. It's a really
Yeah.
peppery sort of affair. I don't have a ton of your stuff over here in Turkey. Most of your products are in my stash back in the States, but this is a really good one that I've been using a lot lately.
Oh,
And
thank you.
you must have ran out of labels because I got the Sharpie
I
treatment.
think
But
it was before the Black Magic labels showed up
oh yeah,
because there was a we had a whole set of labels get stuck in Florida during one of their hurricanes. So
no, that's
labels
perfectly fine. We get it.
have been, but
So
Magic is one of my favorites. It,
really,
it was one that I worked like it was crazy hard to get right. Crazy hard. I cooked up something as a fragrance and it smelled fantastic. And as soon as I put it in the soap, soap ended up smelling like Play-Doh.
yeah.
Like
Well, maybe we could talk about that for a couple minutes. How hard is it to get um fragrances to adhere to a shaving soap the right way? Because I've had another artisan on the show before,
Mhm.
and I've asked him about scents staying anchored to a soap or kind of or not shaking out to be the same scent profile. Like, how does that work exactly?
Uh, for us, it's been a lot of trial and error. There's no set, like there's no book on it. Um, you have to play with it. So eventually you learn that orange almost never sticks. And so you have to anchor it with like a patchouli or a cedar wood to get it to stay. Um,
Right.
or that
I've seen those
you would have
combinations a
to
lot,
add,
like cedarwood and orange.
yes, and that's because orange will just fade out. It will completely, if you just use orange, you would end up with nothing after a couple weeks. It evaporates too fast. So you have to get something that will keep it together. Um, how exactly all that works, I don't know. The There are perfumers who won't do fragrances for soaps because it's too tricky because you never
Right.
exactly know until you start testing. And then when you start testing, you're like, okay, well, I think this might help, or I think that might help. Like sometimes I've had to add vanilla where I wouldn't have thought I would needed to, but the vanilla adds that roundness that the fragrance had, but it didn't have when you put it in the soap.
Right.
So it's learning what kinds of things you have to add and what things you need to keep out. Um, and that's sort of the fun part.
Right.
It's frustrating,
So
but it's also fun.
scenting shaving soap in an awkward way is kind of like cooking almost.
Yes.
You have to tinker with a recipe, and
Hmm.
then once you get it down and you write down, okay, I gotta add these ingredients in this order, then it's just plug and play basically.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
And you might start with an amazing scent, like Black Magic. I had this amazing scent in a bottle, like that I put together, and it was just ugh, so and you just never. Sometimes you just never know. Like at this point, I can kind of predict, but sometimes you just can't.
No, I understand that. So you have two and a half ish different soap bases. This one
Yeah,
is the original, the budget base, and this one, this I think is my personal favorite from your lineup. This is the Indigo Oud,
that's my favorite.
and this is
I don't like picking favorites, but that's my favorite.
in your Rust Belt Reserve. I'm going to talk about the scent of this just for a second because this is using oud and black currant, and it kind of
Mm.
shakes out in a way that makes it smell like pine resin. Did you get that kind of?
I don't get pine. I get oak moss to my nose and I get the currant, the black currant.
Oh, because I
And I
get
love how everyone can pick up what I love is that everyone can pick up something different. My husband picks up the leather more than he picks up anything else.
yeah. There's leather in that. I'm
But
not
that's all
picking up pine
he
needles.
picks
I'm picking
that
up
up.
this resinous kind of pininess. It's really interesting though. Like you definitely were cooking with gas when you made this one.
It was funny because I made that one at a perfumery workshop. There's a local perfumery that puts on fragrance classes, and they just put out a whole bunch of stuff to play with. And there were a couple things in there that I hadn't played with before. And I was like, oh, but there was stuff that I knew already there too. And so I was like, okay, I know I want this. I know I want this. I know I want this. And I was like, oh, it's now as a perfume, it's a little bit different. Um, it's a little bit brighter.
Hmm.
Um, but for the soap, I had to do things like tinker with the amount of tobacco and leather and tinker with adding like a little bit of jasmine, a little bit of vanilla, because that stuff, um, it needed that in the soap versus needing it in the perfume version.
Right. My goodness, I could smell this all day. But the reason I brought this up was to talk about your soap bases. So you got the
Yeah.
Rust Belt Reserve on one end, you got, your budget base on the other end,
Yeah.
which I have affectionately dubbed the cheapo base.
That's fine.
But I swear by this stuff. Like this does like this the budget soap base from you does not get nearly the attention that it deserves. My personal favorite from this one, by the way, this particular soap base is Valley Parkway. The use of rosewood and vetiver. Oh man,
Yeah.
good stuff.
I do love that one as well. So the big difference, so they all use basically the same butters and oils. So even the cheapo base has a lot of cocoa butter in it.
Okay.
The step up, if you will, to the Chupacabra base, that has some extra cocoa butter, a little less stearic acid. Stearic acid is cheap. Cocoa butter is not so cheap, but they act very similarly in a soap, except that the cocoa butter gives a lot of those nice, soft, skin foody kind of butters to it. So soapers like cocoa butter. They hate
No.
playing with it. They hate using it because it's miserable to use. It melts really slow, but it makes a really great soap. So the budget soap just has less kokum for the most part. The Chupa has goat's milk added to it, and a couple other little skin food ingredients like mallow extract.
Right.
And I remember the other one. And those were just things that I used in my products for myself that I liked on my skin. Originally the Chupacabra base with the goat's milk edition. It was inspired by my honey oat with goat's milk soap. That's my favorite bar soap that I make. I didn't think honey would be a good addition to a shaving soap, and a lot of people are allergic to oats, so I didn't do oat, but I did keep the goat milk. I really like the feel of the goat milk and soap, so that's why that. And then the Rust Belt are the sort of more premium, if you will, even though I hate that word, the premium kind of fragrances, the ones that took months and months and months and months to develop or have super expensive fragrance components, that they were just more costly to make.
Right.
But the soap base between Chupa and Rust Belt, the soap is the same. The big difference is the fragrances. Like coconut lime is what I call a regular Chupacabra, because coconut and lime are really, they're not expensive fragrance components. So, but like Forest City Fern and the ingredients in Indigo Oud, Forest City Fern has something like 17 different components. Indigo Oud, well, hold on, let me count. 1, 2, 3. Indigo Oud has like 15 or 16. So it's mostly because it's costly to keep that kind of stuff on hand and keep it fresh, and that kind of thing. So they're just more expensive to make.
No, that makes sense. And by the way, we're talking about a difference in price of your budget stuff is what, 12 or 13 right now?
Yes.
And versus a $20 or $21 shaving soap. My personal experience with both of these is that, make no mistake, Rust Belt Reserve is definitely the better performing of the two soap bases, but in my personal experience, the budget base has been completely unbeatable in terms of ease of use. I've never seen another artisan soap base that was easier to make a lather.
Oh, thank you. Because I hear the Chupacabra base is easier for some people. So
I don't know what people are doing for my lathering habits. The budget stuff. I have again. I could handpick a few artisans that make really easy to use stuff. This stuff is so easy to use. Like, this is what I recommend to beginners. If it's like, okay, you want to get out of Perazzo and go into an artisan, pick this up.
Oh, thank you. Now, to be fair, I probably should have adjusted the price on that a while ago, but I'm gonna leave the price where it is for now. Eventually, things like labels. Like when we first started out, we first priced that soap. You know, we had crappy labels, and now we're doing things like hiring graphic designers, getting
Right.
them professionally printed. So a lot of those costs are not put into the budget. So eventually they probably should be. Originally we were just going to do the really nice custom labels for the Rust Belt. So that was also kind of worked into the cost for the difference between the Chupa soaps and the Rust Belt soaps is that they had we hired people and had to pay them, and they asked for money
Yeah.
and not soap. They didn't want to be paid in soap; they wanted to be paid in money.
No, that makes perfect sense. I get it. But I mean, if the price must go up, I would rather the price go up than have the soap base go away, because I think there's a market for this that that we should not ignore for
I know,
for
but
the
I have sometimes I think people think that because the price is low, that it's not as high of a quality base as the more expensive ones. Um, I've noticed that there's a tendency for people to want to like buy the more pricey one um, because they think it's better. And I'm not just talking about mine. I'm talking about in general. Like if you go shopping, you buy the more expensive one because you think it's
right,
better somehow. But I think it's the same quality.
right.
My husband shaves just as well with the budget as he does with the stuff, the chupa. But he also doesn't need that kind of skin food stuff.
Right.
So I like to kind of balance, you know, the people who do need the skin food stuff, there is some stuff there for them.
No, I mean the biggest difference, in my opinion, between the your budget base and your Rust Belt Reserve base is that on the budget base the scents are simpler. But you know
Mm-hmm.
that's the conversely that's the more old school way of making soap. You
Yes.
know, for all these elaborate, extravagant scents we got.
Yes.
I'm going to get on my soapbox for a minute, but shaving products were always supposed to have kind of a simple scent profile. You know, historically we had things like lime and bay rum and
Love lime.
sandalwood and things like that, and that's about as complicated as it got.
Yeah.
But in recent years, you know, maybe some for good reason, some for not, we've graduated to really complex, very impressive scent
Yeah.
profiles, and I think some of the simpler stuff that's still very good kind of gets left behind because everybody's chasing that newer shiny thing.
Oh yes.
But
Yeah.
this stuff
And it's
is
hard. Well, it's hard not to get caught up in it. Like I like the simple sense because I think um, when we started, we were going for simple scents that guys could still wear cologne, or you know, you could do cologne after, so it wouldn't be um, an overpowering kind of scent on your face that would sort of take over everything. And then as we've kind of gone on over through the years, the whole hobby has kind of changed. It's become more of a hobby, if you will. Like it's not as utilitarian. So guys do want the more frag kind of sense. Like we've been getting a lot of frag guys coming into the wet shaving community, and they want those fancy things, if you will.
yeah,
The more cologne kind of um, fragrance kind of sense.
yeah,
So it's
and
fun
I'm not trying to
tinkering with
be
them.
dismissive towards that. I mean, there's room for those kind of people in this hobby,
Yeah.
but part of me does miss the days when soap making was simpler. You know,
Yes. Well, that's
it's
why I like my coconut lime because I'm like, or lavender lemongrass, two essential oils, and I'm done. And I love that, but I also love tinkering with scent.
yeah,
So I didn't think I'd like tinkering with scent. Like it, it's complicated, and it was a lot to learn. Um, so I like both sides because I like building the fragrances too.
that's awesome. Yeah, so you know, my final thoughts on you know the difference between the two soap bases is you're still going to be very well served with the budget products. I just got done saying, is the Rust Belt Reserve better? Of course it is, but that doesn't mean that the budget stuff is bad.
Right.
It is as good as some of the other standard bearers that we have in the artisan community, and you're going to get a good shade with that. That's just how it is.
Thank you. I like to think that too, but it's nice to hear it from other people.
Yeah. So about a year ago at this point, I made a purchase and I got a box in the mail from you. And in it was a sample of this very interesting kind of Gilded Age pipe tobacco soap that that didn't have a name yet. It was still kind of
Still doesn't have a name.
early in the beta phase. And I tried it, and I reached out to you and I said, Shannon, this really, I think this thing has wheels. Like, you really should bring this out into the market.
Yeah.
And you were like, yeah, I've been tinkering with it. I don't know if I'm gonna release it or not. It's just something I'm working on. I'm like, Shannon, I swear to God, if you don't put this out on the market, I will disown you. There will be no
now
more
I don't have a
Shannon
choice,
soaps
right?
in the Soap
You put
Thing
it up.
project. So thankfully I don't have to do that. But can you talk about this new shaving soap scent that you've been diligently working on for the last year? What is it?
It's the working title has been pipe smoke. That's what I've been calling it in the house. It's not going to be the final name. The name has been a point of contention between me and Brian. So it's worse than naming our children, honestly. It's been way worse than naming our children. So I don't even remember what the inspiration was at this point, because I started it. I'm looking at my notes here on the scent, and I first trialed it in February of 2021. So yes, I know.
It's been a minute.
It's been a minute. So I had to actually pull this out because it's been marinating, and so we wanted to do a pipe tobacco scent that was pretty realistic, that kind of hit what real pipe tobacco might smell like. My grandfather used to roll his own cigarettes, so I remember the smell of that. But I wanted something slightly different than that. I don't want it quite so dry. I remember it just had a dry smell to it. But Brian had said that he knew people that were pipe smokers, and it was sort of a brighter scent to it. So we were trying to go something like that with a realistic scent that kind of hit on the past. So, things that didn't happen anymore. Like, people don't sit around smoking pipes all that much anymore. So we wanted to kind of pull from the past, if you will. So it has, can't read without my glasses. I'm like J Mac. Anyway, so it's a tobacco base with a little bit of cherry and vanilla, clove, just a hint of clove, because clove can be burning. And then things like vanilla and orange and coumarin, all my favorite kind of things are in them. So we went for a flavor with the tobacco, if you will.
So on paper, this might sound like a lot of other cherry tobacco scents that are in the wet shaving market currently, but I can tell you this stuff smells so real. It's not even funny. It really is quite fascinating.
I've heard that. I don't always believe what I hear. Because sometimes some guys will really love it, and then some guys will really hate it. And I haven't heard any hate from everyone who's tested it. So hopefully it is well received when it does.
And tobacco scents can be hard to peg down because it's really easy for it to turn into like an ashtray tobacco, and
Yeah.
it's it's not 1962 anymore. Everybody doesn't smoke like they used to, and so you got to be careful with those kind of scents. But this one smells like an unlit pipe tobacco just sitting in the pipe. It really is crazy how real it smells. When
Good.
when do you think this this product is going to grow legs and walk away?
We're thinking late spring because it's already almost February, it feels like.
Right.
In mentally for me, it's almost February
It,
because
will-
of
it will
the
actually probably be February by the time this video goes live. But
so
so
I'm thinking we have to pick a name and we've got a few choices. You've helped out with that. And then there's been a couple other names we've kicked around. And so pretty much what's left is getting the label. So contacting my graphic designer, having her fix me up a label, getting those printed. That's weeks right there. So
right,
nothing is fast in the soap world, at least here, unless unless Jason from the Razor Company requests something really really fast. Things tend to move a little slower. And then what I would like to do is mix up a bunch of the fragrance and have it sit for a couple of weeks before I use it. So just making sure that because I haven't mixed it up in a while. We're thinking middle late spring. So what's late spring? Like before May. That's the
right.
plan.
That's
Before
awesome.
May.
Has it
But the
changed much since I smelled it last?
Yeah, it hasn't.
No, no, has it? I'm asking you, has it
No, I
evolved
haven't.
much since
No,
I?
I haven't tinkered it. I haven't touched it. It smells it. I do have some like in jars, just have the jars that haven't even closed. And I just sniff it. I do like the scent very,
Yeah,
very much.
it's
So I'm glad to hear that a couple other people have tested it for me and have said that, and they were noses I trusted. I don't send things to test to people whose noses I don't trust. Um,
okay.
so the feedback has been good so far. So
Uh, Thank you for
hopefully,
that responsibility. I do appreciate it because that was when I smelled that, I put it up to my nose and I was like, I literally took a double take look at it. I was like, did she just send me like a pack of tobacco? That's literally like what I was like. I'm smelling it. I'm like, this really has legs. This can walk on its own. It's really quite fascinating stuff. That's I was impressed when I got a sample of this, which I have
mhm,
done a review on already. And
yeah,
this
and that
was
took a
cooking
while to
with
come out too.
gas. The indigo oud was already cooking with gas, and so this is like coming in the kitchen with a blowtorch is what this new tobacco scent is going to be. It was really impressive. So
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so excited. I do. I love this scent very much. So I want it. I do want it out there, but it's not always easy. Last year just didn't seem right. I don't know. It never seemed to have a. There never seemed to be a right time to release it last year either. Otherwise, I would
yeah,
have worked a little harder getting it out. But
no,
this year
I've got
feels different.
I've got positive vibes about excuse me about what 2023 is going to offer. I don't know why, I just do. As
I
far
don't
as
know why either, but it feels different.
right,
It does feel different. So I'm hopeful.
let's let's do this. Let's
Okay.
transition to the elevator speech. Every time I have an artisan on, I ask them to sell their products to me in 30 seconds. If I didn't know who you were, didn't know a thing about you,
No, no, I'm not good at that.
how would you? Well,
No, no, no.
you gotta do it.
No, you don't understand. I'm from a family where my mom was like the martyr, right? And she thinks that soap is stupid. So I have to have other people sell it for me because I am just like too I'm like, no, it's just soap. Like that's what I hear in my head. It's just soap. So I don't know if I can do this. Selling my product does not come easy to me, which is probably why I don't sell as much product. I'm
Well,
terrible at sales.
let's put a pin in that for a second. I think one of the reasons that I personally like your brand so much is because of your personal humility. Like you're not a this bombastic extrovert like a lot of other
No,
artisans are. You sit back and you let your products speak for themselves, and they do speak for themselves. It's
yeah,
it but
it's
with
not an
that,
act. I really can't. I like it's soap. I know it really works well, but it's still. Yeah, at the end of the day, I feel like the utilitarian, you know, version of it. You know, so it's
yeah,
hard when I try to sell my expensive product because I'm like it's still soap.
yeah,
Like you wash it off, like it's
yeah,
not. But
yeah.
I also understand the whole hobby aspect of it, where guys like that experience. So it makes it hard.
I'm going to drive this point home because I think it's important.
Yes,
Uh, at the end of the day, soap really is soap. All right, shaving soap has one job, and that is
yes,
to slicken your face so that you can safely shave it. Uh,
yes.
and for the most part, unless you
Hmm.
have extremely um, finicky skin,
Hmm.
soap is soap. You know, regardless of the price, regardless of which artisan you're getting it from, you're going to get a good
Exactly.
shave with it. And so I understand you finding it difficult to really be that kind of car salesman kind of pitch because it is just a puck of soap, but it's good. And sometimes I just like to hear people take pride in their work. But that's fair enough. I'll let your work speak for itself. How about that?
But okay. Well, my husband, the biggest thing was that he could shave with it. Like because he has this, like he probably has a beard now. It's what 11:30. Yeah, he's it's already grown back in. So making something that he could use um, and not break out with and not get neck like he doesn't get ingrown neck hairs anymore. Um, that was sort of the biggest driving force. So I guess I do, I do value very much making shave soap because I know it's a product that a lot of people benefit from. Um, and I know that my product um, is good for skin um, that is sensitive, only because I've tested it, animal tested it on my husband already. He's
Right.
my
Well, that
animal.
that was the whole impetus
Yes,
for this brand in the first place
yes,
was, it was built from the ground up to be
yes,
good for people with sensitive skin because
yes,
that's the whole reason it had to exist in the first place.
yes.
So that's definitely good stuff. All right, well, I think it's about time for us to get out of here. I am going to do the frag out, which I've got the Blue de Chanel, which is just it's if I can get this to focus. Why is it not wanting to focus right now?
I don't know.
Oh my goodness. Oh, there you can see my happy
I can
face
see your
right through
face
that thing,
in it.
can't you? But this
That's
stuff is
cool.
kind of a woody, ambergris, grapefruity sort of thing. This is the eau de parfum version. Did you
Ooh,
bring something?
I did. I made one.
What is that?
Uh, It's so Bath and Body Works. This is a dupe of Hairberry, which is like an ancient scent. Like I'm so old, Hairberry, but I love Hairberry, and you can get it as um, an oil you can soap with. And
Hmm.
my daughter loved it, and she's like, "Can you make me a spray?" So turns out I actually did have stuff that I could make a spray with that I ordered like a year ago that I forgot I had. So this is my spray
So what is
right
it? What
here.
does it smell like? Let's talk about
It
it.
smells like pears and strawberries.
Okay.
No, it's not just pears and strawberries. It's kind of an appley pear. It's one of their really older scents. We used to buy way back, oh goodness, 25 years ago. They
Hmm.
would have glycerin soaps. And so I'd get them in. That's all Brian could use actually for a while. was the Bath and Body Works glycerin soap bars. So Hairberry takes me way back.
That's good stuff. I love it. Well, do you have any parting words of wisdom for the wet shaving community before we get out of here?
No.
No? Yeah.
No, just stay within your budget. Don't that would be my don't overfill your den. That kind of thing. Use up your soap because it does go bad. Don't be surprised when it's not good in 5 years because it won't be.
Let's
So
talk
use
about
it
that
up.
for about 30 seconds. How long would you say you can expect a shaving soap to last before it might start becoming less usable?
Well, I think it will always be usable. Whether it will smell good is another question. So eventually these oils go rancid. Like it'll still stay soap, but it'll smell like bad frying oil. It'll
Mm.
it'll get that old oil smell. So eventually that will happen.
Even if
So
you only scoop it out?
yes, eventually all things must come to an end. So
Yeah.
there's I use the most shelf stable oils, the ones that won't um, oxidize as quickly, but
Right.
they also have um, roughly 3 year shelf life is doing really well. It might last even longer. It might not. Depends on the kind of conditions you're storing them in.
Yeah.
People who scoop, they do tend to last a little longer than the people who lather
Right.
from them because they
From my
get
personal
gross.
experience, I keep my soaps in a closet in a room with no light where it's relatively cool. And I only scoop the soap, and I have soaps that are 6 years old that still smell
Yeah.
perfectly fine. So,
I
but
haven't
after,
officially tested. I haven't been around long enough to officially test. Although it ends up getting used up faster and it will go bad anyway.
right.
Um,
I mean,
but I want to see more bottoms of tubs
yeah,
in
yeah, we do need
2023.
to see more bottoms of tubs. Take a soap, take 3, 4 months to use it, and then rinse and repeat. And as a reminder, make sure you're being a good steward of your pocketbook,
Yeah.
because that has second and third order consequences on other aspects of your life, and we don't want you, just like in any hobby, we don't want you,
Mhm.
eating up all your finances to the point where you're having trouble making ends meet. That's the last thing we want you to do.
And I know that makes it sound like I'm a bad saleswoman, but I I we fill the jars to 4 ounces. I'd like you to use all 4 ounces. Um, it, I know eventually some artisans are going to move to smaller jars because it at least from sort of an environmental standpoint, it feels wasteful.
Yeah, I mean, we got
To
these
have, yes,
light
yes,
light
Jason
road
is
3 ounces,
gone.
and this is a good coffee
Jason
scent.
likes the 3 ounces. I like the 3 ounces because I feel like people will use it up faster.
Yeah, I mean,
They're
if
smaller
you
tubs, so it's harder to load from, I think, than the bigger tubs. Um,
yeah, the tub loaders don't like it, but in my personal experience,
yeah.
um, I will tend to use soap out of a smaller tub
Mhm.
more often, just because I can get to the bottom faster. So
Yes, yes. I like to see when people use the whole thing up instead of it collecting dust in
yeah,
and it
yeah,
dripping in.
that's we don't want soaps collecting dust. They're here to be used.
No,
Well,
use them.
Shannon, I want to thank you very much for taking time out of your day to come on here. It's been a pleasure. You're welcome back anytime you want to come on. I want
Thank
to
you so
thank
much for
everybody
having me.
for watching. This is Soap Thing telling you, shave like you mean it. Thanks for watching.